I've zoomed in so you can see from the last cut that we did that the top of this plane here has now been curved slightly, just to give it a bit more of a realistic feel when you print it out. So the kowhaiwhai pattern has been made, the top of the plank has been beveled, and now what we want to do is we want to use this hemisphere to create a dimpled texture across the top of this to make it look like it's been carved out by an adze. And the way to do that is to use the rounded surface on this hemisphere here. And what the effect we're trying to create is if we pull this over the top of this and lift it up, we're trying to create a little dimple in the plastic with the top of the dome, so you can see the circle if you slide into this. This would be the shape that would be cut out of the plastic when we finally turn this upside down. So if we change the shape of this, you can see the kind of shape that we would get. So we want to try and create is this kind of shape, and possibly slightly off center, so it looks like it's been cut with the grain or against the grain to get the texture that you want. And obviously we're dealing with a small piece of plastic that's only 12 mils wide, so these circles need to be quite tiny. So let's have a look at making a cluster of those, then grouping them together. So I've already oriented this slightly off the plane. So this is already 17 mils long. I think we're looking at things like probably 3 millimeters by, let me think, let's just make this 3 by 5. And it's way too tall. It doesn't need to be that big. It needs to be quite tiny. And we're going to use these shapes, probably give it a little bit more. Let's make this 5 by 5, shall we, because it's on the angle. There we go. So we've made this tiny, which means on a plank that's 12 wide, we get 3 or 4 of these across. Let's just not make that angle quite so severe. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make several of these. So copy this, and I'm just going to change the size of this. Let's change it to 4. And make this one 6, and group that together, paste another one in here, and let's make this one 2, and this one 4, and let's just again keep the direction going, and I'm just going to keep putting these together so they should all be the same height, 4, 4 and 4. And so I'm just going to keep clustering these together. Maybe I'll make that a bit fatter. Yeah, that'll do. So let's do another one, and put that there like that. And I'm just going to keep clustering these. I'm going to make a little cluster of these together, and then I'm going to repeat them and cluster them together, so that we've got lots of these little, let's make this 3 again. And I will keep clustering these together, so I'll show you how I'll make this all work in a moment. So what I've done is I had about 8 or 9 of those little hemispheres clustered together, and then I copied those and then grouped them and copied them and just kept going and going and going until I've got a pattern. And if you look at the top here, you can see there's a bit of a regularity to the pattern, so the more random you make it, the better. You can see my joins there. But what I kept checking was to make sure that when I finally put my plank over the top of this, it's actually going to work. So there's enough spaces here. So what I need to do now is I need to highlight all of these, and I need to group them. So the first thing I'm going to do is to group, and because there's so many shapes in here, this will take quite a few seconds, possibly a minute, up at the Tinkercad servers to group into one solid object. So I'm going to click on that, and again we'll come back in a minute. Now, because there were so many shapes, that took quite a long time to create or get into a shape, but now it's made as one shape, and now I'm going to make it into a hole. That should be a quicker process. Okay, so we've now grouped and we've now made this into a hole, and we're going to now rotate this through 180 degrees. and we're going to align these two up. So we're going to come to here and I'm going to click align, and they're in the center. That's fine. It doesn't really matter where they are. The thing is, we now need to make sure that we don't press too deeply into the plastic with those holes. So we need to lift the holes off by, that is, plastic's 4 millimeters thick at the moment. So I'm going to lift this up 2 millimeters. And what we're looking for is trying to see, zoom into here, we're trying to see or get a feel for the kind of gaps that we're going to have. So I think I'll just Command Z that, and we will do that again. And rather than being 14 mils off the ground, we'll make that, let's make it 3 mils. And what we're trying to look at when we zoom into here is to see the shadows. Now it's not making much of a dent at the moment, so we will raise that. Let's go back to 2, and that's looking like it could be more of a object. So what we'll do now is we will combine those two and we will group those. Okay, so the work has been completed and it took a little while, but it's worth the wait, because if we look at this now, we can look at this and it looks like it's got a dimpled or chiseled surface. And so now we can assemble these two pieces together. So let's just highlight the pair of them, and let's use our aligning tools, make sure they're in the center and center them together. And now we can see, if we zoom in, it looks like our object has been carved out of, roughly carved, the base has been roughly carved, and the white kowhaiwhai pattern has been smoothly carved. So that would make a very different, a very interesting print for you to do if you did this. So there we go. It's worth the effort to actually put those scoops in to make it look like it's been hand carved with an adze, and then put your kowhaiwhai pattern on top.